Hello, Tuesday's World Economic News. We'll start with a chart, and as you can see, it's a chart of something that was up and is now down. In fact, it's gone below the zero mark, or at least projected to go below the zero mark. So it was up at 20% and now is projected to go below the surface, down into negative territory. What is this? 1B. FT Alphaville. Headline, Japan's savings rate about to go negative, Goldman says. Yes, that is a chart of Japan's savings rate. That changes an awful lot. Okay, let's do some work from Pink Picks, which is comment and analysis and offerings from the Financial Times, little blurbs about articles in the FT. You can sign up for the FT and you've got to pay for, I think it's more than 20 articles a month or something. So I'm very careful about which articles I read because I don't want to pay. So from these blurbs we have Wolfgang Munchau, Draghi can lead the Eurozone out of danger. Now what we've got here is Axel Weber has withdrawn from the race to be the new ECB bossman, chairman. And so it looks like it might be an Italian that's going to take the position, because Draghi was always kind of going to be second to Axel Weber. But Draghi probably, if Draghi gets the job, what is poor Angela Merkel going to say to the people of Germany, who will go, Italianisch, Italianisch, and go absolutely berserk that an Italian might get to be boss of the ECB. And as Wolfgang says there, she's going to have to bring something home, some more dinosaur meat for the people of Germany to calm them down, because they are not going to quite understand this. And what can she possibly get to make them happy? Another article, news analysis, investors seek to profit from Cajas reform. This is about Spain, and this is strange. The Spanish government are really trying their little hardest. They are really, in their air-conditioned offices, they are doing their utmost best to sort things out. But out there in the Spanish world, a lot of the Spanish people are just still asleep after lunch, and they're not doing it. The Spanish government is really trying, but there are times that the government just can't roll an economy forward that doesn't want to roll forward. The message for China from Tahrir Square. I'll read this because the uprising in Egypt must have stunned Chinese leaders, notes the professor of government at Claremont McKenna College. Beijing has heavily censored news of the uprising, strongly indicating that the Chinese Communist Party, which narrowly avoided collapse during a similar popular revolt in 1989, Tiananmen Square obviously, is gripped by the fear that it could encounter the same fate as befell Hosni Mubarak. And you can imagine, they might. China isn't as under control as a lot of people think it is. UK politics, a quiet rebellion, and I can read this, it's only a few lines. As anti-austerity protests spread to Tory heartlands, the big society, David Cameron's vision of a substitute for a shrinking state faces growing scepticism, writes FT reporters, and it's not surprising. Nobody likes austerity when it gets to their front door. Gavin Davis, whose blogs, it's more blogging for the FT as opposed to being a reporter. This week in Global Macro, the emerging markets remind us that they are, well, emerging markets. The Egyptian crisis may have moved towards resolution in Egypt. I think it's a funny use of the word resolution, but still, move towards. Even so, it's going to be a long time before any sort of resolution is found in Egypt, I would have thought. But there are risks of contagion elsewhere in the region, yes. India continues to be the worst performing stock market of the year, and China is slowing under the weight of tightening monetary policy. Indeed. I think it was Obama that said that India and China aren't emerging, they have emerged, but No, they're still having growing pains. Money supply. When markets and economists disagree, professional forecasters have become more optimistic in the first quarter survey by the Philly Fed, but I am not bowled over by their wild enthusiasm, writes the FT's Robin Harding, who writes a good bit of work. A steady 3 to 3.5% pace of recovery, and even if it's that big, doesn't seem like the kind of forecast that would lead the Fed to an early rate rise, and it's absolutely not. Even if it is 3.5, the Fed isn't going to be so excited that it'll think it want to calm the economy down. When it's accelerating it away at 3.5%, that's not accelerating away at all. Anyway, let's get into the other things. Conscience of a liberal. I always get that wrong. Krugman, anyway, in the New York Times. Europe turns on its axle, and this is Krugman's view on the Axel Weber retiring. And Kevin Walsh in the United States temporarily retiring, and he says, goody, goody, goody. Those sort of people only wanted austerity, and it's good to get rid of them, and people that are more likely to print up money will come to the fore, so he's happy. Eurowatch. Edward Hugh. Now, this is a classic example of genius at work. I'll just give you the first couple of lines of the article. In a blog post which has gathered a certain notoriety, Paul Krugman recently sent the Estonians his condolences. Well, I will send them not my condolences, but my congratulations. And if you read the article, you're probably not in the slightest bit interested about Estonia, but it is a classic example of an analysis of an economy of a country. Read it from top to bottom and you can see it just reads beautifully as an analysis of the economy of a country. And there's a couple of comparisons in there to Spain and how they're not really kicking ass in Spain, but Estonia have done just about everything they can, but still will probably fall short. My Budget 360, he of good charts, and an article entitled Financialization Era, How Banking Welfare Captured Our Economy and Ravaged the Wealth of the Working and Middle Class, Building Profits Through Financial Debt Leverage. And long article titles. Here's the first chart of two, and it's 1951 to the present day, but you can see the dotted line is where financial profits and total debt just went along parallel, merrily along the ground. You know, bankers went to play golf at 4 o'clock, everything was happy. 1981, total debt starts zooming bottom left, top right, and of course financial profits follow or go along together, whichever way you want to look at it. And the second one, the classic chart, we've seen it before, but it's always good to look at it. Going back to 1947, the blue is manufacturing, which is top left, bottom right, and the other is FIRE, which is finance, insurance and real estate, which is bottom left, top right. Manufacturing has gone down and down, and pushing bits of paper around for extra bits of money has gone up and up. Is it sustainable? Again, nobody knows, because money is such weird stuff. But probably not. Daily Finance. Is oil output peaking or not? ? Either way, cheap oil is gone for good. That's a good sounding heading. By Joseph Lazaro in Daily Finance. Not bad. As investors and as as drivers, most of us have an interest in the price of oil and what's going on. It goes on about stuff. It's like an innocent getting into what is called in the second paragraph the theory of peak oil, right? And then the third paragraph talks about the WikiLeaks and conclusion that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's oil reserves may have been overstated by 300 billion barrels or 40%, and almost gets to understand later in the article, that is almost meaningless, and it is the fourth paragraph in the opening which is the important one. The executives also said that Saudi Arabia wouldn't be able to increase oil production to the 12.5 million barrels per day necessary to keep the price of crude from rising sharply. It doesn't matter how much you've got in the ground, it's how much you can get out per day or per week and actually then bring to market. That's what matters. Actually, how much is there is effectively irrelevant. It's how much you can get out and get to market. There are various chapters in this article. Pumping at full capacity. Supergiant fields are draining quickly. Improved drilling technology could save the day. That's a dubious one. And tapping new resources. And in the paragraph entitled Tapping New Resources comes this rather wondrous sentence, or part of a sentence. The Bakken Formation in America. The Bakken Formation holds 3 billion to 4.3 billion barrels of undiscovered, technically recoverable oil. The Bakken Formation holds 3 to 4.3 billion barrels of undiscovered, technically recoverable oil. Yeah, like that's technically recoverable. Like the Canadian tar sands are technically recoverable, but it is a dirty, messy, expensive, energy-intensive pain in the arse to get hold of it. Anyway, and we finish with a chapter heading called Era of Cheap Oil is Over, which is a decent way to finish. So that's the end.